Hi guys, this is George. I figured you guys might want an update on what Troglodyne's up to, especially with regards to our open source work and our video tutorials and so forth. There will be more video tutorials about various things with regard to making integrations for cPanel coming before very long. But the integrations themselves we were writing, like the Postgres plugin and all that stuff, that's going to be on hold indefinitely because, well, we've got some more exciting and interesting and lucrative opportunities coming our way. So the thing that I'm going to pivot my open source work for and our open source work for is to a project we've been working on for essentially 14 years since we were teenagers. Yeah. Basically, we've run a site called teodesian.net, if you guys haven't already figured that out. It's pretty much vile libertarian propaganda, it's straight from the anus of hell or whatever. So, anyways, we have built this site from the very beginning to sort of be a news aggregator that takes the minimum amount of effort on both administration and like using it day to day. However, I realized that with like the advent of search and with the advent of AI and all that stuff, I can actually make things even easier for me. I can automate even more about being a horrifying propaganda rag, right? So what I'm going to do is sort of like two big things. So I'm going to change the data storage format for tCMS from flat files, which are sort of like filling the inodes on my disk right now.
Yeah, I mean it's recently been turned into a JSON format, probably as of about 4 or 5 years ago, something like that, which recent for a 14-year-old project. But like before, it was mostly just flat files that were just straight up HTML. So like, it was pretty primitive for what it was doing. But then again, back whenever it was created, so long as you set your disk to no A time, everything was great.
Yeah, right. Well, anyways, so tCMS 2 basically started about probably 7 years ago, something like that.
Yeah, the seeds of it certainly did. I started a branch probably about 4.5 years ago for tCMS 2 proper, but the plans, what I wanted to do, all the roadmap was already laid out in kind of the 1.5 ish release for tCMS. What I had noticed for the most part was it was lacking a login userland. It was lacking some polish as it regards some of the theming, templating, that sort of thing. And for the most part, that was what I tackled in the tCMS 2 branch. A lot of it was cleanup, that sort of thing. But since I really didn't dedicate the time that I needed to it, it kind of stagnated.
Yeah, and so what I've done is basically taken that branch and taken almost all of the DOM and the techniques that you've refined over years to essentially make a holy grail site that doesn't require very complicated DOM. There is no divitis here. The JavaScript is truly minimal, and CSS does almost all the work. And we found a few techniques with HTML5 that we can actually make some of these visions that we're going to tell you about here come true even easier. And work really well on mobile. And that's one thing you guys might have noticed about teodesian.net if you use it very much, is that it is one of the most responsive sites out there. It works great on 4K and great on even the smallest smartphone.
I tested it down to NTSC resolution, which is smaller than even the smallest smartphone that you have.
Yeah. And so anyways, building on that is going to be great for me, because what sort of started this was I've been using Hugo for Troglodyne.net, our sort of corporate site, and it is just non-stop headaches trying to make these themes where they actually work responsibly, because the fact is most people have no freaking clue what it actually takes to make responsive stuff work right. And usually that involves, not doing crazy things like negative margins and stuff like that people are just, they're like, oh, it's the hammer, I can use it.
Oh, yeah, and all that does is build up basically the CSS version of technical debt, where then you get married to divitis. You get married to whatever framework you're using, whether it's Bootstrap or whatever the heck that you're doing. Because once you stop doing it, this pixel perfect, PSD layout like I made it in Adobe Photoshop, it's all trash. But the problem with these layouts is they're trash at 4K already.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing I hate seeing with most of these sites is like when you go on a 4K monitor, it's literally like the width of your head on a monitor that is 6 times wider. When the fact is, you could read the whole page right there, even on like it's 300% DPI. You
Yeah.
know. And it would be much more pleasant for you to do so if you're standing at a decent focal length from the monitor instead of like right up against it, right? So a lot of people they have their opinions about this whole I need it to be certain things of the fold, but I disagree vehemently with that, and hey, we still have viewers on our site, so hopefully they like it. Anyways, so to get into the two big things that are happening, number one, we're no longer going to be PHP. This is going to be a Perl PSGI app. Right now I'm developing it using Starman and stuff like that. It'll probably be behind Nginx and Varnish at some point. But the other thing is, like I said, the data storage is going to be Elasticsearch, okay? And so what that's going to allow me to do is not only do the sort of everything is essentially just a document in a search engine kind of thing, which will make actually rendering the pages even faster, especially when it's like I've got a lot of posts, right? Because it's not going to be zipping around through directories and doing fstats and stuff like that nonstop. It's going to just be like, oh, here you go. You've got a big search engine dump from a database, basically. Yeah. Databases can be a lot faster than file systems when it comes to large amounts of results. And the reason I actually want to check large amounts of results is because I want to do analysis on this text because, like I said, I've done this stuff for 14 years, We've got a lot of stuff, and if I can train against this data set, I can probably get really good suggestions as to what I think would be good stories. And so if I can integrate that with what we actually use to sort of make this whole thing happen, which is tiny RSS, we have probably 300 or 400 RSS feeds, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, you can sort of take a look.
Yeah, we definitely have over 100 feeds. And generally, it's going to be, if we leave it alone for too long, we're going to get something like 300 or so, stories every, I don't know, a few hours, that sort of thing, that are popping in. A lot of times we, get rid of them. We'll just mark as read, something like that. But the point is, like, a lot of times you miss some gems whenever you're having to do that because, our time is scarce, that sort of thing. So what George is looking for here is a big benefit to us because we have the RSS reader, all that sort of stuff. It's great, right? But it doesn't filter out the stories that we don't care about.
Yeah, and it takes about 2 hours or so to winnow the wheat from the chaff, so to say, and that would be very helpful to me. And the other thing that I want is I want to be able to pick out like a political illustration for every day because we have like this humongous meme folder for our propaganda purposes and stuff like that. So the idea would be I sort of categorize and tag up all my images, and there's a lot of actually like off-the-shelf software that can even help you do this that I might integrate with. But the idea is that sort of, you see up there on the top bar, we're going to have a lot more categories other than news, blog, files, and about. The news, the wiki there in the left bar, and the blog and the about stuff, those are all just text documents, right? So we should be able to put those all essentially just as different categories inside of a search index. And then what we need to do is we need some multimedia stuff. We need video, we need audio, we need images, right? And so I want to make some of this like I've been deplatformed, but I don't care because I already have everything I need to do a multimedia empire, right? So the videos will have like a different display. It'll be tiled, or you can do like a full video display where it's like I'm viewing a YouTube video and it's got like a description, and you can even do a comment feed. I mean, personally, I don't like comments. I think they're a waste of time. Something more like super chat is a lot better, right?
Yeah, exactly. Now, I might be okay with like actually live chat, that sort of thing on videos, because a lot of times that can really build an audience, is having a live chat. And doing something like that, having an XMPP backend to just have a temporary live chat that gets the chat log gets stored afterwards and replayed, at whatever timestamp, because you can have those timestamps and that sort of thing pretty easily. effectively what Zoom does is XMPP for their chat
That's what
function,
almost
that sort
all
of
of the big MMOs also do. They use the same Jabber server we do. They use the Haskell one.
Yes, which is it's not Prosody. A lot of people like that one, but it's eJabberty.
Yeah, it's Erlang Jabberty, eJabberty. That's the one most people use because it's the most fault tolerant and fast and all that stuff.
Yep.
It's got a few fun bugs, but
if
you follow our stuff, you already know about those, right?
Yeah, the config files for it as well are somewhat space case, but
Yeah, well, like I said, I'm going to be using Elasticsearch here, and the config files for every search engine are pretty much space case. So that you just got to sort of swallow that pill, right? Anyways, so the other thing that I want to talk about is I'm going to build in monetization of this stuff. So I want to be able to paywall content, and I want to be able to schedule content, right? Because to monetize, a lot of times what you need is to just have stuff coming out on a regular schedule, and then the other stuff you need is like a mailing list and so forth like that. So it's just really going to be like scheduling where it goes, blast it out to just normal the media, the web page itself. But then the idea is that I'm going to slowly integrate other places to blast it out. Like blast this monetized content to an email list, blast this to Twitter, do whatever.
Well, and similarly, one of the things that has pissed me off about YouTube the whole time it's existed is its the walled garden subscribe function. Oh, subscribe so you can get notified about your content. Well, then give me an RSS feed, you tool.
Yeah, and this one you can actually get an RSS feed and just subscribe to it in the RSS reader of your choice. It gives full control to the users. Even if it's paywalled, you can just put in authentication and get everything you need rather than having to, I have a Chrome instance that has a YouTube tab opened 24 hours a day so that I can keep track of all the crap I actually want to watch, which is stupid. When you look at our RSS feed, basically we've got like a huge amount of media. We've got like 20 or so podcasts that have real RSS feeds and provide really good information. But the fact is, there's just so many content creators out there on like YouTube that there's no RSS. You just have to open a tab and all that stuff, which is ridiculous and silly in my opinion. Anyways, so the other stuff that I'm going to try and get as like the last thing to talk about here is I need static renders, because if I'm doing a search engine, it's going to be a lot more overhead and all those sorts of things. So that's something I've wanted for tCMS even when it was PHP and flat files, because like I said, statting however many entries, because the way it works, if you go to the microblog, you can...
We got a cute little puppy here.
Yeah, she was in scratch mode. Anyways, so open up the microblog here real quick, and I'll sort of give people an idea of what's going on here. So when you see all these posts here on the page, every single one of those that has a link and a description, all that stuff, every one of those is a file. That's why I said they're filling my inodes, okay? Because it's like I might have 10, 12, 13 every day, stories and so forth. What you want is that after the day is done, that a static render is made, they're all compiled into one thing, and you never have to worry about it again. Inode limit is not a big deal, and the cost is very low for you to actually host this content. And, the idea is that this is going to be very fast. It should be fast enough that it can be even like slash dotted and not even care. The idea is that I want this to be very high performing. My Hugo blog, even though it purportedly does do static renders, it's actually slower than todesian.net, and that just baffles me completely.
Well, a lot of that is due to the deployment environment. Right now, for todesian.net, we have Light TTPD, which is an extremely fast web server. Whereas on Troglodyne.net, it is currently hosted on a cPanel instance using Apache, which, if you've paid any attention as a web dev, if you've ever been in that space, you know that Apache is a pig.
Yeah.
It is the slowest web browser, bar none, for serving for serving static content that exists. IIS is even better. So, like, it's just, if you have to use Apache, seriously. Like you have to either
If you have to
manually
use
tweak
Apache,
it or
use Nginx instead. Right?
yeah, I mean use Nginx to have in front of it as a cache or varnish or something like that because Apache's a pig. That's pretty much what everybody does in the wild, anyways.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just used a proper server that was fast, you wouldn't have to worry about this crap.
Yeah. Anyways, so hopefully I can get this sort of vision of fully automated luxury propaganda production, from for link aggregator blogs, essentially, knocked out, and hopefully, it'll work out great because I mean the fact is WordPress still sucks, and it sucked even back when we made tCMS in the first place, right? A lot of people ask, why make another CMS? Well, Medium and Substack are making money right now, and they're not that great. Let me tell you that right now, So I'm pretty sure there is a lot of room to expand here with regard to making a CMS that does not suck. So that is sort of what I'm going to be doing probably on and off for the next 6 months or so with regard to open source work. It's going to be plenty to do, but I'm making very fast progress so far. I've learned a lot in these 14 years, and it should be a lot of fun. So I'll leave you guys to it and give you all an update here probably before too very long.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. Go to troglodyne.net. Take a look at all of our social, subscribe, like, whatever you want to do. Thanks for watching, guys.
Hit that PayPal link.